Hello, this is Robert at the Open Eye, and today I thought I would continue my series on book blurbs. If you come into the shop and you see all the books on the shelf, it's kind of hard to pick out which one. We don't have much time anymore. People are limited to 20 minutes at a time in the shop. So I thought I'd continue this and read a little bit of the blurbs for you, and then you can decide which one you want to pick up just by watching the videos. So today I went to the God section of the bookshelf, and I found these three: Communicating with the Archangel Raphael, Journey to the Dark Goddess, and Dionysus, Exciter to Frenzy. So we're going to start with Raphael, and this is from the introduction. Although I went to church school, I learned little about angels until the middle 1960s when I joined the Theosophical Society. I was fortunate because one of their regular speakers was Jeffrey Hodson, the well-known author of many books including The Coming of the Angels, The Angelic Hosts, and The Kingdom of Gods. He was a wonderful speaker, and I enjoyed all of his lectures. One evening he spoke on Raphael, and I was fascinated to learn of this archangel's role in healing. My father was a surgeon, and a few months earlier had helped organize a special service at a local church to commemorate St. Luke, the beloved physician. My father had no time for organized religion, but was involved because he was the chairman of the medical association. While my father was working on his project, he read about St. Luke and shared what he had learned with the rest of his family. Consequently, I thought St. Luke was a father of medicine, and was surprised when Jeffrey Hodson told me that Raphael was more important as far as healing was concerned than St. Luke had ever been. This piqued my interest in Raphael, and I spent a great deal of time learning about him before expanding my interest into other archangels. Before looking at archangels, and Raphael in particular, we should start by asking, what are angels? St. Thomas Aquinas, 1225 to 1274, often referred to as the angelic doctor, defined them as purely spiritual, intellectual, and non-corporeal creatures with substances. Although the angels are spiritual beings, they can interact with the physical world when necessary. The angel of the Lord at Christ's resurrection, for example, was able to remove the heavy rock that sealed his tomb. Angels are also superhuman. In Revelation 7:1, John mentions 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. Angels possess wisdom, emotion, and free will. They know the difference between good and evil, and long to understand God's plan for humanity. They rejoice at every sinner who repents, Luke 15:10. They choose to obey the word of God, Psalms 103:20, Revelation 22:8 and 9. They are holy spiritual beings who worship and serve God. Their most important role is to act as messengers between God and the human race. So that's a bit from Raphael. And going from that to Dionysus, Exciter of Frenzy. Chapter 1. Who is Dionysus? He who leads the throngs becomes Dionysus. Who is Dionysus? Portrayed as a leader of lustful possessions and drunken debauchery, he appears a hedonistic god at best. But this is a gross generalization, and it gets the true complexity of Dionysus' nature. Dionysus can certainly be described as complex character. He is Dionysus dimorphos, dual-formed, and Dionysus dimiter, born of 2 mothers. His dual nature bestows him with the authority of a liminal god, he who stands on a threshold between worlds as a god of prophecy and initiation, and he who traverses the process of birth, life, death, and rebirth. As an ascended god, Dionysus occupies the heavens, yet also dwells in the depths of the underworld, acting as a guide for souls, spirits, and shades. As the bull-formed lord of death and rebirth, he is Dionysus Dikertos, 2-horned one. He is the hunter, yet to be hunted. He is dead, and yet also alive. These cycles of opposition were the driving force behind his cult rites. Dionysus offers us joyous freedom of choice, yet he is also the toxicity that we ourselves administer by our own erroneous decisions. He is Dionysus Bromios, the roarer, the loud shouting god of pandemonium. yet silence and stillness often fell upon those who were possessed by him. Often symbolic of extreme and contrasting states of being, he embodies the primal emotions that drive us and make us who we are. That's Dionysus, exciter to frenzy. And the last one today is Journey to the Dark Goddess, how to return to your soul. And this is from the introduction. The Dark Goddess is a mystery and hidden figure, although each of us familiar with her roles of the Wicked Witch, the Crone, and the Bad Mother, the Hag, and the Winter Queen. We don't always remember her other face of compassion, healing, and rebirth. This does us a great disservice. It leaves us disconnected from the full range of the feminine divine and estranged from much of our ability to change and grow. In Journey to the Dark Goddess, we travel deeply into ourselves, seek answers to difficulties, strengthen in crisis, and healing or change when we have become stuck. Sometimes we make this journey consciously, but all too often we find ourselves on a path without knowing how we got there, what to do, or how to get out. Some of us spend years down there in the shadowy inner realm known as the underworld. Each journey to the Dark Goddess is different, yet the pattern of journeys remains the same. They begin with an awareness, a feeling that something in our lives is not quite right. When this awareness rises, we may set off to investigate it, but often we don't. Often we prefer to ignore that awareness, that small voice, that feeling of something awry, and we're capable of ignoring it for quite a long time. Eventually it gets too much, and all of a sudden we are swamped, collapsing under stress, illness, emotional crisis, overwork, and an outright disbelief that this could be our life. Then, as everything falls apart around us, we are forced to begin a search for understanding and change. When we undertake the journey towards the Dark Goddess, much of what we have accumulated is stripped away. Sometimes we experience this as having parts of our lives we have relied on taking from us, such as health, relationships, emotional stability, and status. We cannot visit the Dark Goddess while still keeping our place in the world. We cannot be in two places at once. This means we have to strip off, or more painfully be stripped of, all our guises, props, and patterns that are so much part of our lives. We have almost come to think of them as ourselves. In stripping down to the core, we find our intrinsic self, or our soul, and that is where we meet the Dark Goddess. And I can tell you those words ring very true for me. Whenever I have been stuck in my life, Hecate has showed up. She has showed up as my Dark Goddess. She has guided me out of that place of stuckness and then disappears. Until the next time I get stuck. And then she shows up again. I don't go to her. She kind of shows up when I'm stuck and gets my ass unstuck. And so the words in the intro to this book rang true. All right, that's what I have for you tonight. I hope you'll come by and purchase these at the Open Eye and have a great and safe week. Thank you.